Hey peeps, it's Miss Sarah here. Welcome to rStudents Online.
Hey rStudents, it's Abby. I am here today by myself with no one else. It is just me. I was challenged to cook some breakfast. I know the Barnes girls did a great job with their pancakes the other week. So I decided I'm getting a little bit hungry and it's breakfast time, so I'm gonna make some scrambled eggs and turkey bacon. So first we have to get everything out of the fridge, which is right over here. Gonna close, yes. Okay, so we got the eggs, bacon, ketchup, apple juice, and almond milk. So yeah, first thing we're gonna do, crack the eggs in there. Well, not exactly how I was planning on doing that. So we got a couple shells, really all the shells. Milk, we're gonna put milk. Nope, that's ketchup. We are not going to put ketchup on there. Milk, we want milk right here. Okay, I like the trusty Aldi's. Oh no, it's closed. And we're just gonna whip those up a little bit. That way they're nice and fluffy. Here we go. You want to make sure you break the yolks. Really get it all stirred in here. Oh my, okay, yep. A little bit of spilling, but that's really gonna be fine. Now we're gonna cook those. We need the pan. Here's the pan. We're going over here to the stove. My belly's really getting hungry here. We gotta turn on the stove. Alright, get it to a medium-high heat. There we go, just pour those eggs in. And we just need a spatula, because we're gonna stir these around, scramble it up. Woo, I love the spatula, okay. While these cook a little bit, we can definitely open the turkey bacon with the scissors in this drawer here. Always point the scissors down, that's safety. And the turkey bacon, oh, it's on here. I'm so nervous. Why is it so close to my face? We're gonna cut that open. There we go. Ah! It's right there. There's the turkey bacon. Okay, it's on my face too. Let's just do 2 slices to start. This is just for me. I'm so upset. So we're just gonna push the eggs over to one side and put our turkey bacon in on the other side. We're just gonna go right over here to get my plate. Oh my! These are our nice dishes. Definitely don't want to drop them. Just really gonna be a delicious breakfast for me, myself, and I. Hopefully I don't have any burns at the end of this. If I do, I don't think it'll be my fault. Let's head on over here with the plate. Oh my gosh. Alright. I like ketchup on my eggs, so I'm going to put some ketchup right on there. The apple juice is to drink, so we're going to open that up here. These straws can be so tricky. If you want to... Delicious. Yum, I don't need the straw, they're too difficult. And now I'll bring this up close so you guys can see what we're looking at. Turkey bacon, eggs, ketchup. I don't want to tip it over the whole way. I'll take a little flip here. It's a little far from my face. I love a good breakfast. Alright guys, well I'm gonna go enjoy this. I hope you enjoyed watching me cook. Got lots of cleaning up to do.
Hey Abby, is breakfast ready?
Breakfast for me is ready. Didn't get anything for you.
Oh man.
Sorry, on your own. Alright, bye guys.
Hey guys, it's Pastor Jordan here, and I want to say thank you so much for tuning in for another week of rStudents Online. But I also want to say it's not too late to invite some of your friends to join us. We have a digital connection card in the description of this video. So if you invite somebody, have them fill out that card because there's a section for them to say who invited them. And if they put your name down as somebody who invited them, then you'll be put into a drawing for a free Amazon gift card. So why don't we take a moment and just invite and text some of our friends who we think might be free right now and see if we can get them to come and join us. And while you guys are doing that, I want you to check out this little video.
Are you okay?
They're watching a video. It's gonna be a fail compilation and really funny and embarrassing videos. And I hope that this is probably recorded. I shouldn't use this. You're gonna blackmail me. I think we can all agree that sometimes embarrassing moments can be really funny to watch. Just like that clip that we just saw. See, when somebody falls down in public or says the wrong thing during a speech, sometimes a sermon, or trips in front of a room full of people, we just can't help it. There's something funny about that and seeing it. But it's not as funny when it's happening to us, right? This reminds me of a story of when I was in school. I was on the improv team at my school, and one time during our shows, we were asked to do impressions of other students. So I thought long and hard about who I wanted to do an impression of that would be recognizable by the rest of the school, and I finally had my target. His name was David. And one of his most trademarked things that he did at school was he walked around and he would put his hand above his head like this and kind of kick his leg up to kick his hand. He was really flexible and stuff, so he did it all the time. And I used to kind of been able to do that, but not anymore. But I got on stage and I said a few of the things that he typically said, and then I wanted to end it with the big kick and touching my foot to the hand above my head, and everything was going great until when I kicked, I heard a shh. It was the sound of my pants ripping in front of the entire school. The crush that I had included being in the front row. I was mortified. It was so embarrassing. I ran off the stage and I just hid for the rest of the day, tried to get a change of pants because nobody wants to walk around with a split in their pants. But it's funny how stuff like this works, that whenever you do something embarrassing in front of a large crowd of people, or they see something that you didn't mean to do, it kind of sticks around with you, right? Like I went for weeks where people would come up to me and be like, hey, Jordan, remember that time you ripped your pants in front of the whole school? And I was like, yeah, I remember. I was there. I did it. Can we please just stop talking about this for once? See, you do this one thing, and then suddenly that's what you're known for. That becomes the thing that at school, on your team, or even at church, everybody talks about. It's who you are and becomes part of the identity that people associate with you. It shapes their opinions that people have of you. And in a way, our ability to influence other people works the same. Remember, influence is the ability to have an impact on someone else, to impact things like behaviors or thoughts or even their choices. While we have a tendency to believe something like influence is far and out of reach and only reserved for people that are popular or kind of a big deal or who are well known, but in reality, we all have the potential to influence the people around us. And because of that, we all have the same potential to lose that influence. Maybe you know someone right now who used to have a lot of influence. They were known for being friendly or funny and the person who always tried to make the good choices. But then they got caught drinking at a party or got caught cheating on a test or spreading a nasty rumor about a friend. And just like that, their influence was gone. Now, instead of being known for all the good things they've done, they're simply known for the one big, bad decision they made. Or maybe you know this is true because it happened to you. You were the kid who showed up every week to church, who always got straight A's, who had lots of friends, and who was a leader on your team. But one bad decision, one moment, one choice or experience, and suddenly your reputation changed. Now people look at you and only see a bad decision that you made. And because of that, you feel like you can't show up at church or maybe at school or on your team, or you can't even hang out with your friends anymore. But here's the deal. Those big decisions, those things that we do that are open and obvious, and obviously not good choices, they definitely have the power to cost us our influence. But you know what else has the power to cost us our influence? The small, more secret things that we do that don't seem like a big deal at the time. Like the harsh way we speak to our siblings, or the way that we can sometimes yell at our teammates in the locker room, or the secrets that you share about a friend when they're not there. Or maybe it's the guy that you're dating that you know you shouldn't be with because he's not good for you. See, all these little things can add up over time. And the more you do them, the more likely you are to become known as someone who does them. And the more likely you are to lose the influence you may have over the people around you. When we put it this way, it sounds like a real bummer, doesn't it? You make bad choices, or big or small, and just like that, your influence is gone. Your ability to be anyone other than a person who makes bad choices is over. You're stuck and you'll never be able to get things back to the way that they were before. Well, here's the good news. While all that may feel like it's true, trust me when I say that it's not. No matter who you are, what you've done, or how you feel that it's impacted the influence and the way that people see you, there is a way for things to be different. There's a way to find the influence that you think is lost forever. See, I know this is true, not just because I've seen it at work in my own life, but because I can see that it happened in the life of one of the most influential, important, historic figures in the Christian faith, a guy named Peter. Now, Peter was one of the 12 disciples of Jesus, and the disciples were a group of people who followed Jesus around. They learned from him and lived life closely with him during his ministry on earth. But Peter also wasn't just any disciple. He was actually one of the 3 men who were closest in relationship with Jesus. He was one of Jesus' most trusted friends. See, Peter loved Jesus. And when Jesus left the earth after his death and resurrection, Peter became known as one of the men who carried his message and spread Christianity around the world as a leader of the early church. When Christians talk about Peter now, they talk about all the amazing things he did to grow the church and to see more and more people believe in Jesus. They talked about the big and the bold and amazing faith that he had. They talked about all of his influence. But here's what's interesting. Peter wasn't always that guy. Luke, one of Jesus' other disciples, wrote down a story in his account of Jesus' life on earth, the book that we now know as Luke, that shows us a different side of Peter. This amazing leader with so much influence in the church, well, at one point, he did something so bad that he almost lost it all. Where we pick up the story, Jesus had just been arrested and was about to be put on trial for his life. This was the beginning of the end for Jesus, or so everybody else thought. And because they followed Jesus so closely, the disciples thought that this was also the beginning of the end for them. See, if Jesus had been arrested and had his life on the line, wouldn't the same be true about the people who followed him the closest? And as all of these events unfolded, Peter followed the guards that took Jesus away because he wanted to see where they were bringing him. But because Peter was also afraid for his own life, he hid himself in the crowd and tried to disguise himself so nobody would recognize him as one of his followers. And here is what happened. And we'll be looking at Luke 22, verses 56 through 57, if you want to follow along. It says, "A servant girl saw him seated there in the firelight. She looked closely at him and said, 'This man was with him.' But he denied it. 'Woman, I don't know him,' he said." Did you catch what Peter did here? One of the most trusted, loyal followers and closest servants of Jesus straight up lied about all of those things. He denied even knowing Jesus at all. This is like your best friend in the entire world who knows all of your secrets, who's number one on Snapchat, who you always text the most, completely and totally denying you and dropping you from their life in front of everybody. That's terrible. I don't know about you, but that's certainly not the way that I would think one of the most influential leaders of the Christian faith would act. Shouldn't a guy who's so important in history of the church be a guy who stood up for what he believed in and used his influence for good no matter what? Well, let me just stop you here and let you know that this story actually goes from bad to worse. See, 2 more people came up to Peter in this crowd and asked him the same thing. They asked if he knew Jesus. And both of these times, Peter also denied knowing him. Right then and there, you'd think the potential for Peter to ever have any influence as a Christian would be lost. I mean, he denied even knowing the guy who all of the Christian faith is based on. How could somebody who does that ever gain back the influence that they've lost? Well, the answer is simple. Because of Jesus. You see, Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. Did Peter mess up here? Big time. Did he feel awful about it? Absolutely. And Luke went on to tell us that Peter actually went outside and wept over what he'd done. He knew just how big and bad and costly these lies were. Not just his influence, but also to his relationship with Jesus. But that's the thing about Jesus. He doesn't see our mistakes the same way that we do. He knows our sins are forgiven. And when we come to him honestly, he offers us the forgiveness we need to start over. Then we can begin gaining back the influence we thought was gone forever. And that's exactly what he did for Peter. As you probably know, the story didn't seem like it ended all that well at first. Jesus was killed, and his followers, Peter included, didn't know what to do next. They were afraid and unsure and so very lost without their leader. But then, 3 days later, Jesus rose from the dead. He came back to life. And one of the very first things he did was find his friends and his followers, including Peter. In another account of Jesus' life on earth, the book of John, we find out what Jesus said to Peter when they were reunited. And let's take a look at that. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said. "You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." With his very first question, Jesus was giving Peter a chance to change his story, to right the wrong, to be more than his mistakes, to gain back his influence. And this time around, Peter got it right. 3 times Jesus asked Peter if he loved him, and 3 times Peter confirmed his love for Jesus. He said one, "I love you," for each and every time that he denied Jesus previously. And Jesus' response? Well, it wasn't a call to take care of his actual sheep. It was a command to take care of the people who followed him. See, in the same way that sheep follow a shepherd as their leader, believers in Jesus follow him. So by asking Peter to feed his lambs, Jesus was asking Peter to take care of his followers. He was asking Peter to tap back into his influence and use it to change the world through the message of Jesus. Jesus saw Peter as so much more than his mistakes. And the good news is that Jesus sees us in the very same way. No matter what we've done in the past, we have permission to love and to follow Jesus right here in the present. Our mistakes and sins have been paid for. We can ask God for forgiveness that Jesus already bought for us. And because we're forgiven, we can move forward on a new path, step by step, gaining back the influence that we feel like we might have lost. See, Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. Just like Peter, you can receive grace and forgiveness. How your story has gone before doesn't have to be the way that it goes in the future. You can take a step toward Jesus and a step toward regaining some of the influence you feel like you've lost. To start with, I want you guys to do 3 things. Number 1, ask yourself what may be causing you to lose influence. Take a minute to think about the choices you might be making, big or small, that are impacting your ability to influence others for good. Is it the guy that you're dating, the things you post on social media, the way that you speak to others, your attitude on the field, the secret behaviors that nobody else knows about? Whatever it is, acknowledge what big or small choices might be chipping away at your influence. Number 2, confess it to God. You got to be honest with God about it. Tell him what you're struggling with and ask for his help to overcome it. Ask for his forgiveness and believe that you received it, and let that moment be the first step in rewriting the story of your influence. And number 3, take 1 step in the right direction. Take 1 step toward getting back the influence you think you might have lost. Maybe that means apologizing to someone you've wronged, or putting up boundaries in a relationship, or changing the way that you talk to the people around you. Take 1 small step this week in the right direction. And next week, take another step. Remember that those small steps over time lead to bigger and better influence in the long run. And remember this, that Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. Hey guys, so I'm sure by now you've already noticed that the layout of tonight is a little bit different than usual. Typically, we have a game or a fun element to go alongside the Say Yes challenge before the sermon. And then after the sermon, we typically have a blooper of some funny thing that might have happened during the filming process to end with. But tonight, I feel like God is asking us to set aside a moment for something else. Over the past week, our country has been going through a lot of hurt and pain, all starting with the death of George Floyd. I don't have to tell you that America has issues. And over the past week, specifically, the issue of racial tension has risen to the surface. The unjust racial bias against our brothers and sisters of color is apparent in America. This has had an effect on each and every single one of us, some directly and some of us indirectly, but the effects are still there. Out of all the issues that America is facing, both in public and below the surface, I believe there is one underlying issue that is the root to all of the others, and that's a lack of Jesus in the lives of the people here in America. And where I don't necessarily have all the answers on how we can deal with the issues that we face, I believe that this is one issue where I know what we can do, what you can do. Over the past several weeks, we've been talking about influence, how that God can use you to do big things, how those big things typically start out with small steps over time. And tonight, how God doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. When others around us are crying out in pain and hurt, where some are acting out in violent ways due to extreme emotion, you have the ability to speak out and to be the hands and feet and even the mouthpiece of Jesus in these times. See, Scripture says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God." And it also says that we need to love our neighbors as ourselves. And our neighbors include everyone that we come in contact with, regardless of the skin color, the nationality, or even their gender. See, we've been called to spread the love of Jesus. So I want to challenge you in the coming weeks to use your platforms and your influence, not to just simply spread awareness about the issues that we are facing, but to spread the love of God through every word that you post. I also want to take a moment for all of us to come together in prayer for our country. I'm going to say a short prayer here, and then we're going to listen to a song. And while this song plays, I want to encourage you to move into a place wherever you may find yourself, that you can cut out all the distractions and focus in on what God is doing in your conversation with Him. And join me in prayer, as well as everyone else here on rStudents. Papa, we praise you and we glorify you. And we thank you for who you are and the work that you are doing in all of our lives. God, I ask that you be with everybody in America during these times where the unjust death of George Floyd has come to light and is rising up issues that may be below the surface and people haven't really paid attention to before. God, I ask that during these times that you allow us to be your hands and feet, that you allow us to have eyes for the hurting and for the broken, God. I ask that you show us what we can do and our part to play into being part of the solution. God, I ask that you be with all of our brothers and sisters of color and that you help us to be able to show them that they're not alone, that they are loved and cared for by everybody, and especially by you as well, God. In your precious name, amen.
When our homes are hit by heartbreak, let your presence meet us there. When the pain seems overwhelming, we hold on to you. When the streets are torn by chaos, we will be your hands and feet. When the darkness brings division, may we be yours. world needs freedom. So give us eyes to see the hurting and the broken, and let our lives align with every word you say. When the nations ache from violence, we will be your blessed peace. When the headlines scream injustice, may we shout your name. 'Cause we know that our world needs Jesus, and we know that our world needs freedom. So give us eyes to see the hurting and the broken, and let our lives align with every word you say. 'Cause we know that our world needs Jesus. We know that our world needs freedom. So give us eyes to see the hurting and the broken, and let our lives align with every word you say, Jesus. So let every heart turn to Jesus. Let every voice sing of your great name. Let all the earth know your freedom, 'cause we believe for more. Come on, lift that up tonight. So let every heart turn to Jesus. Let every voice sing of your great name. Let all the earth know your freedom. We believe for more, God, and we believe for more. 'Cause we know that our world needs Jesus, and we know that our world needs freedom. So give us eyes to see the hurting and the broken, and let our lives align with every word you. We know, 'cause we know that our world needs Jesus, and we know our world needs freedom. So give us eyes to see the hurting and the broken, and let our lives align with every word you say. Oh yeah. 'Cause I know that I need you, Jesus, and I know this heart needs healing. So for my needs I lift this prayer to you, my Savior. And for my life and for the world, you're the answer, Jesus.